What's up, everybody? Welcome, Hawk versus Wolf.
Yes.
We are very excited. We have a very special guest. Mr. Seth Rogen is here with us.
Hi, guys.
Thank you so much for making time, Seth.
No problem.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I know I hit you up and stalked you for a little while.
Not at all. I was
Actually, you replied.
I replied very fast.
Yes, you did say, yeah, I'd love to do it. I'll check on it.
So this is not annoying to you?
No, not at all. No, not at all. There's much worse things I could be doing with my whatever Friday morning than this.
Welcome. Here we go.
And I'm not Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
I've only met you one time, but you look younger now than you did when I saw you. Are you like on steroids, or did you just eat
No?
like
That would be a weird choice for me to make at this point in life to do steroids. I think you have to exercise more than I do to do steroids. I exercise regularly, but not like a steroids level.
Did you not exercise regularly? Like 10
I think
years
when
ago?
I met you, I literally never exercised,
Right.
and now I exercise and diet and eat. I mean, but I was like, how was it 10 years ago? Was it like
Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like 30 and now I'm 40. And that's like a big, it's at that. I think when I was 37, I was like, I'm in excruciating pain all the time. And I work out.
I have to make some effort.
I had a doctor, I had a bad neck pain and it was giving me headaches. And I went to a physical therapist and he said, the problem is your neck is too weak to support your head. And I was
They said that.
Yeah. And I was like, that's not good.
It's motivational, though.
I was like, I thought it just did that. I didn't know you had to make it do that. I thought that's what the neck's sole purpose was. He was like, oh no, it can get not good at that.
It's been holding your head up this whole time. You think it had practice?
I would think it. You got to make that happen.
So no steroids, just to the gym.
Yeah, I do. I work out somewhat regularly, and I eat much better than I used to as well.
Do you get high before you work out?
Yes, I get high before I do everything.
Yeah, me too.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
kindred spirits here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I know. I smelt weed smoke out here before anyone got here, and I was like, "Ooh, weed! I like that." And then and I was like, "Wait, should I smoke weed before the show?" And I was like, "Wait, Seth Rogen's on the show. What's he gonna say? Hey, man, you look high." I'm like, "Whatever."
No, people always ask me do you smoke weed before you do this or that? And the answer is yes to everything. I smoke weed before I do everything.
I do before I skate, and people think that's weird. But I think there was just an adjustment. I think at first it was difficult, but I liked weed so much that I just
you got to power through. Yeah, for sure. That's how
I think that's probably that was my first indication that weed doesn't agree with me like it does everyone else.
Did you try to skate high? And
I tried to, and I hung up on everything. I was just feeling it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like everything was kind of slow.
Yeah.
And I wasn't.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
No, it's
cool, right?
I just kept falling. I kept falling, and at some point I was like, I'm falling, and I'm paranoid. And
That might be why you and I meet. This whole time I was like, this is the best I can do, but maybe it's because I'm really high.
Yeah, you should try sober, see what happens. I actually don't. At this point,
I know, right? I know.
It's better to never know.
I know. I can just imagine if I had smoked weed for a whole day and I'm at the ramp, I'm like, can I just leave and smoke weed? And then it'll come back, I promise.
No, that's true. And honestly, that was a big thing for me is I was a writer on TV shows and I would act and I would always want to go home. I would want to be done so I could go smoke weed.
Yeah.
And then one day I was like, if I just smoke weed all day, then I don't have anything to go home. Then I'm doing
stay in the pocket.
Yeah, and I'm just doing all of it. And I was like, and it actually made me a better worker in a lot of ways because I wasn't trying to get through my work to go home to get high. I would just work high really happily the whole day. Yeah, it actually changed. It changed a lot for me in that capacity.
Yeah. I started stand-up just like a couple of years ago, and I always get high, but I didn't want to get too high before I did stand-up. And now I've realized that if I get high right before I go on stage, that's when I'm better than ever. The problem
like
is
minutes. You got to find. Then you realize you're working yourself into like an Elvis-esque like regimen of like when to do what drug in order to keep your performances good.
I'm trying to make it as difficult as possible. It's not that. But the Funny People movie, I watch it all. That's like my.
Oh yeah,
because it
is a
I'm
realistic
learning-
look at stand-up comedy.
right. It really is like that. Like
Yeah.
the people that I know that are like on a jet with Tom Segura, and
Yeah.
then they're doing a show with me,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I just saw you on a jet, and he's
No,
like,
it-
hey man, comedy.
they bring you along. No,
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah, like that was like I did stand-up comedy from when I was like from when I was like 13 to 19. So that's a weird.
Wait, how does a 13-year-old do stand up?
They let you in. They let you do it.
Sweet.
I'm from Canada, so maybe the rules were like a little more laxed in general, I guess. But yeah, I would go and I would have to stay backstage. Eventually, some of the places would let me hang out. I would hang out with the comedians and shit.
Did
like
you
that.
have 13-year-old friends that were into stand up too, or was this a solo?
No,
mission?
there was actually like one. It's funny. I just looked him up recently. There was like one other like kid who did stand up comedy, and I like hated him, and I thought he sucked, and it like drove me
Because he was the
mad.
main competition.
Right.
Well, he wasn't even good. Honestly, no, he wasn't really competition. Truthfully, I was much better than him, and like we were not in the same like place with it. And I did it much more than him, and did it much more regularly. But every once in a while, I would see him, and by this point, I was maybe like 15, and he was like 15 also.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of 15-year-olds doing stand up in Vancouver, and yeah, it like drove me nuts every time I saw him. But I would talk. His whole thing is he kind of tried to act like an adult, and he would come in like a suit and like a hat and stuff like that. And I skateboarded when I was I would get up wearing like my Airwalks, and like at the time I was a very 90s skater, so like it was my birdhouse shirt and my Airwalks and my my skater shorts, and I had like green hair, and I very much was trying to embody like the honest what it was like to be a 15 or 16-year-old. But then when Judd made Funny People, his whole thing was like, there's never been a movie that like really shows what it's like to do stand-up comedy. And they've tried a few times. There's that movie with Tom Hanks, Punchline. That's like famously like bad example, supposedly, of what it's like to do stand-up comedy. And something Judd would always reference is they have lockers in the back of the comedy club in that movie. And he was always like, what comedy? Where do they have lockers? Like, what is this? Like,
how do you earn a locker?
Yeah, like how do you get a locker?
What is the hierarchy of lockers?
After your set, you hit the showers.
Yeah, exactly. You go in there, you shower after your set. And then I remember we walked on to like, some of them were real comedy clubs, and sometimes they were sets of backstage. And we walked onto one of the sets, and there was a wall of lockers. And Joe was like, what is happening? Like, why does everyone think there's lockers back here? And they until we all waited as they like ripped all the lockers out of the set and like replaced them.
Dave's Hot Chicken and Dave's new Hot Boxes take it up a notch. It's playoff season, so you can feed any crowd or gathering and have some fun during the halftime festivities by making people suffer. Not all of them, just the lucky ones.
These juicy, spicy, hot tenders and sliders allow you to choose 7 levels of spicy, from no spice to the Reaper. The Reaper is made with the Carolina Reaper, which is the hottest Reaper in the universe of all time.
The hottest pepper.
It's the hottest pepper of all time in the universe. Cannot be defeated.
I have known to man.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Shout out to Dave.
Oh, yeah, Dave literally brought us hot chicken sandwiches.
Right, but these, because I'm immune to spice.
You don't feel that one?
No. Am I real good at spicy food?
Maybe you are.
I don't even feel it.
Really? That's the spicy one for sure.
Good. These are like all spices.
We are going to not fear the Reaper because we have 2 actual Reapers. This is it. This is the real deal. Are you ready?
Okay, because I didn't think that
Well, we did the lottery last time, but this one like is guaranteed. This is the hot one.
I told my wife I can eat spicy food now.
Yeah, we'll see. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Cheers.
Oh no, I can already tell it's different. This is not the same.
Oh yeah, that's the real deal.
Oh man. I thought I was immune to. Oh no. Oh, I'm gonna die. Nah.
I don't think we had one last time. Yeah, this is it.
Oh, come on.
That's it? You're done?
I don't like spicy. I don't like spicy food. I hope it's funny. Oh my God! I hate this show. I hate being here now. I did enough stunts growing up. I don't want to be in Jackass.
I don't want to be in Jackass.
Oh!
Is that just one
Dude!
bite? Was that just one
Are
bite?
you eating it?
Yeah.
Oh my!
It's hot. I'm down. But I like hot stuff. Its finger looking good.
You're out of your mind! I don't even know if I can drive. Yeah, I'm in hell, man! I'm in hell!
We definitely didn't have it this one
My
last time.
tongue is dying!
Really? Still?
What do you mean, still? What is this for?
You're losing your ability to talk. Yeah, that's legit. So I guess you don't have a tolerance to spicy food. After all,
I knew
Jason.
it.
You
I
knew
knew it
it?
didn't make sense.
Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
here's to Dave.
Oh.
Thanks, Dave.
Whoa, you're gonna do it again?
Get it.
How's your stand-up journey going?
Awesome. I'm
Yeah.
very lucky because I had the radio show, so I know a lot of comedians. I'm friends with them, so I've had opportunities from the get-go that
Yeah.
made it way easier than
Yeah.
all the other people I see at open mics.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think having the radio show and talking a lot, it made it.
easier probably.
It's like a bit of a. I've been practicing a little bit. It's writing jokes
yeah.
and tags and all these other things where I'm just learning the structure of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like the structure of it, once I get that, with what I've got and the stories that I'm probably going to be a huge comedian. It's gonna
Great.
Be, it's
That's
gonna be
good to
great.
hear. Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Proclamation.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm
You heard it here first.
It's
gonna be great.
How often do you perform? How many times a week do you perform?
As many as I can. Some
Yeah.
like maybe 5.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's really, really, really good.
yeah, I'm trying.
Does your writing change a lot since you were doing stand-up to mostly writing for movies? Like, does it really
Oh yeah, it's totally
change
different.
your approach?
Very much so. And I've actually found writing stand-up, like, I enjoyed it, but I found it kind of limiting, I guess, in some ways, because it was like I enjoyed writing like 4 characters screaming at each other more than one person screaming.
Oh, wow.
And like
Oh, I
I
see.
enjoyed writing arguments and conflict. And to me, that's like the heart of like, you know, cinematic comedy is like conflict. And
Yeah.
it's also the heart of stand-up is your gripes, like how you don't fit into the world, what you view as wrong with the world. But in movies, it's brought to life through like scenes, you know, and in stand-up, it's brought to life through kind of, you know, this. And I do think I remember actually one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I did stand up, and I didn't, was from this guy, Daryl Lennox, who still does stand up. And he gave me a lot of good advice and was very nice to me. And I remember he's like, good comedy should feel like a dialogue with the audience. Like it should feel like you're there talking back and you're talking to them, and it shouldn't feel like a monologue. It should feel like interactive, like you talk and they talk and you talk and they talk, and all they're saying is ha ha ha, but it should feel like there's a back and forth to it. And but what's interesting about when you write movies is like it's all about conflict. There is no like you are just trying to get to a point where everything's as difficult as fathomably possible for the characters, essentially, and that's when it's really funny. And I found that a lot easier to do when I could write from the perspective of a lot of different characters. And I remember we were writing Superbad. It was like, that's what we loved doing, was like these scenes where they're all yelling at each other and they're arguing over what to do, and we should do this, no, we should do this, no, we should do this. And like that became the thing that we really like gravitated to. And I think like our comedic voice, I say we because I have a partner, Evan, who I've known since I was 12, but and I've written with him since then. But like, I think our comedic voice came from like movie writing and from this idea of writing like 3 or 4 different people like yelling at each other, honestly. And when I did stand up, I felt like I was okay, but I didn't feel like I was like had like a unique thing. And then when we started writing movies, I was like, oh, I feel like no one else's movies sound quite like how ours sounds. Yeah. So yeah, and like you're saying, the structure of movies, all that, it's like, it's a very different thing. And it takes a really long time to write a movie. And I think that's where a lot of people like fizzle out is like, it can take like years to write a movie. And a lot of people just don't have the patience.
Yeah, that can be deterring.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were doing stand-up as a kid, is that what led you to Freaks and Geeks? I mean, was that someone saw you there or there was an open audition?
Basically, I was like flunking out of high school and I was like, all my friends were like applying to colleges and shit like that. And I was 16 and I was like, I'm not going to get into any college. And my family, I don't come from a family with a lot of money. So I was like, I need money. And so so yeah, through stand-up, I got an agent, and then I was like, well, you send me out on auditions to act, and Freaks and Geeks was literally the second audition I ever got sent out on, and so like, I got very lucky, and it happened, you know, kind of instantaneously for me. And what's amazing about Freaks and Geeks is they, you know, it was a big NBC network show.
Yeah.
And they did auditions in Vancouver. Like they did open auditions everywhere and went to every major city in North America, basically. So I got cast from Vancouver on a big network show in Los Angeles. And I moved to Los Angeles like with a job and with like a good group of people who I still work with and talk to, you know, regularly, and who a lot of whom are still, you know, I had dinner with Martin Starr 2 nights ago, you know, and so a lot of it is the same people that I still hang out with to this day, which is something that I'm really lucky
I was
about,
so excited to discover that show because I felt like Fast Times was one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah,
encapsulated, you know, going to school in the 80s or in the early
such
80s.
a good movie.
and then I felt like, oh my God, it's Fast Times as a series.
Yeah.
You know, with
something we've never talked about
era.
is how many movies you are in from that era. Like you, and it's one of these things that now I've seen videos of, and like you were in so many movies that I grew up watching.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, like Police Academy?
Yes, like literally.
Oh my God.
Man, I don't know why, but
literally.
people keep sending me video on Instagram of you talking about how bad graffiti is. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah.
Don't do graffiti, guys.
No. That was
It's
my
bad.
God. Yes.
It's bad. You can do other things with
I'll
your
tell you
life.
what that was.
Skating.
That was like 90. What? Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
I do have. I've seen
Hey,
it.
it's
seen
hot.
it? Oh my God, Seth Rogen.
Everybody's seen it. I can't believe you're so anti-graffiti.
They get you all.
It's like a creative.
I'm out there saying some ridiculous shit from the early 2000s. You know, they get you.
I'm gonna put this to rest.
You had a
once and for all.
ponytail at the same time.
Hold on.
What the hell, dude?
That was
what the hell?
That was like 1990 or 91.
You should have been
Stacey
saying, "Hey,
Peralta.
everybody, don't get a
Hold on.
ponytail."
Just give me 1 second to explain.
Ponytails are bad.
Yes, that was the biggest crime in that video was the ponytail and the shorts. Stacey Peralta said, "Hey, they want to do this PSA for anti-graffiti public service announcement." I was a kid from San Diego. I didn't associate with, you know, anyone that was doing graffiti or appreciate the artistic elements of it.
No,
or anything like
obviously
that,
not
right?
at the time.
So, but also, I wasn't anti. I was very much like Stacey Peralta told me to do this.
You were
I
pro
should
Stacey
do it.
Peralta,
Right.
yeah.
So you're saying it's Stacey Peralta's fault?
I blame him.
Nice one, Stacey.
And it was like his friend that was doing. He was like, "Oh, you're tasked to do this. Get Tony Hawk to do it." And I was like, "Okay,
How did
I'll
they
do
get
it."
sucked into that? They must have got paid. There must have been money going around.
Did you
for
get
that.
paid for insulting?
No, I
the
didn't get
art?
paid.
For insulting an entire art form?
And I do remember. I remember thinking about it like, what? I don't really even understand the script that much because I wasn't. They filmed these other kids.
You
doing
look like
the
you
things.
didn't believe what you were saying.
Yes.
If that helps.
You didn't sell it.
But the ponytail made it look like you might back it.
I hereby denounce the PSA. I apologize to any of the street artists that offended.
Into the camera.
My apologies. You should make the right choice
when it comes
and
to
tag
graffiti.
stuff
Yeah.
and make it look good.
Tag it up, baby.
There you go.
Get on those trains.
And
Tag
we had-
people's
The
legs.
ghost of Basquiat will stop haunting you now.
It's so. It really like it. That whole thing. I've been trying to ignore it because I see it.
Me
people tag
too.
it. I'm
On
like,
your
oh man,
behalf,
that,
I've tried
that
to
stupid
ignore
thing.
it.
That stupid thing. And now Seth Rogen has seen it.
Yeah, we've all
It's out
seen
there.
So
it.
it's
It
been
made it out
everywhere.
there.
I know that you would have seen it.
Why wouldn't he see it?
Why would he be lurking anything that's
I'm not
I'm
lurking
out
you.
there.
These are like you are people are forcing you on me. And I try to defend you by not responding. I can't be like, look, Tony likes graffiti now.
Trust me, he loves it.
Totally.
I was tagging with him yesterday. He loves it. We did a whole wall.
Here's the funny part to all that. We had a challenge in our video game that you tagged.
That's right. That was a big part of the game.
That was an actual part of the game. Like you get points for tagging things.
Were you a part of
so
it? Were you okay with that?
Of course I
Right.
was.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we had legitimate street artists creating the tags.
Yeah, that's
that we
right.
use in the game.
That's
You
so
should have
funny.
the greatest
I hope
street
that I've made
artist.
amends by now.
You should have the greatest street
Holy
artist
shit.
on this show to apologize to him.
One by one.
Yeah.
That'd be a good podcast. Tony Hawk apologizes
How about
to
if we
all the
just
great street
do?
artists.
How about if we just do the walk of shame like Game of Thrones?
Yeah,
Would that
just
be all
so
right?
they all throw paint at you.
And they just spray me. Shame.
Oh,
Shame.
that is awesome.
that would actually be cool.
Yeah, they
All
just
right.
tag you.
Whew, glad we cleared that one up.
Yeah.
Holy
me
shit.
too. Now stop sending me that video.
But when can we talk
God.
about Citizens on Patrol Police Academy?
For that one, I was David Spade's stunt double.
That which is so funny.
Yeah, and I got fired.
You're conservatively 3 feet taller
I got
than
fired.
David Spade. How did you? Because of your height?
Because I went through a growth spurt from the time we
During
got
the height?
hired.
During the shoot?
Before,
Yeah.
because it was like we got hired in LA, and then they go, oh, we shoot in Toronto in 6 months. And then we got to Toronto, and the director's like,
you were David
Huh.
Spade's stunt double?
and
David Spade,
they would tell me,
6'3".
Stacy caught what he could tell that they were not happy about my height. And Stacy actually said, stay low.
Crouch.
He kept saying that, stay low.
Stay low.
And I didn't stay low enough, and they sent me home.
But it's in the movie.
Yeah, well, I'm in the movie for a little bit, and then they had Chris Miller was another skater who was more his height. So they had Chris Miller. So David Spade has 2 very distinct styles and 2 different stances in the movie.
And at one point, he's 6'3".
It's a good
That's
sequence,
all
though.
I wasn't 6'3" yet.
Okay.
It's
But
a
you're
real
on your
good
way.
sequence.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
I
You know
love
what's the
that
coolest
as a
part
kid.
about that was that we got to take over downtown Toronto.
You skated through them all. Yeah.
Oh, and did wall rides,
Yeah.
skated government buildings.
It was amazing.
With full permission.
As a kid, that
With
was
their
real
budget.
wish fulfillment. Like that
Yeah,
was
very cool.
That was
I
up
got
there.
to do that in that Paul Blart Mall Cop movie.
We are
Stop
we're at
bragging.
the
You
top
guys are both into
of cinematic experience here, all right?
Hey, we're all huge.
And we do have a
That movie has probably made more money than any comedy I've ever been in. So technically,
Paul
you're-
Blart?
Yes, you're doing very well.
we do have the shared experience of the interview.
Yes.
So I got to do a screening of the interview because I get offered that sometimes by studios because I have a big social media following. And so I'm kind of picky with the movies because I'm not gonna just
Yeah.
watch a movie and decide later if I like it. I know I'm gonna like this movie.
Yeah.
It's Seth's movie. It's gonna be funny. And we watched it, we laughed. I put a post up about how funny it was. The next day, the shit hit the fan.
Oh yeah.
Do you know about that?
Yeah, I know that caused storm. I'm aware of
that. And you were caught in the middle. Everyone got stuck. I still meet people to this day who are like, oh, I had like people's identities were stolen. People's like, I know a guy, this was a funny one. All the like payrolls of all the movies were published because of the hack. And a guy I'm friends with was working on one of a small movie we had made in Vancouver. And the payroll things was published. And he found out that he was the absolute lowest paid person on the entire movie's payroll. Like there was not one person who worked on the movie.
Man.
And every day he'd be like, I feel like they're treating me like shit on this movie. And we were like, no, it's all in your head. It's all in your head. And then he was like, look, nobody, like the guy who like washed the parking lot at night got paid more than I did. Yeah, he was like, and he was like a post-production coordinator or something like that. It was like it was pretty funny. So yeah, to this day, there's a lot of fallout from that still.
Wow. I got frantic messages the next day, like,
Take
delete
down the
that,
post,
delete that.
delete
I'm
the
like,
post.
what happened? They're like, North Korea. I'm like, what are you talking about? North Korea wants me to take that. What is going on? And then I saw that all the emails exploded.
Everything. That still falls out to this day every once in a while.
Does that actually affect stuff you do? Like, I mean, it must have affected some opportunities after that. No?
You know, it really, no. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Not like in a tangible way. Like, we were able to keep making movies. And
they did eventually release it, right?
They did release. What's crazy is now it's like on television. It'll be just on like FX at like 2 p.m. Like, that's what's crazy. Is like, it was at one point the most controversial thing in the world. And now, like, I'll be like flipping channels on like a Sunday afternoon and it's like, oh, it's the interview.
Simpsons interview.
Yeah, exactly. And no one, it's amazing how that can happen. I was worried maybe it would cause some longer lasting fallout than it did. But no.
I mean, it did, but at the time, it seemed
really bad and really catastrophic, and people were getting fired over it. People we knew were getting fired over it. The head of the studio got fired essentially because of it. It really caused like seismic shifts in Hollywood at the time, and I think how things. How business was done in some ways. It actually like kind of showed the success a movie can have in some ways if it has a full theatrical like campaign and then goes directly to streaming, because it went to it streamed on Google, and I think it's still like the biggest movie that's ever streamed on Google, and it made like, which is crazy. And so it did a lot of things that I think the fallout will still see. Students come up to me and they're like, they're teaching me about it in my university class. Like,
awesome.
It's really, it's wild. And it really recalibrated, like, what I consider to be like controversial, which I think is good. Like, I think as a comedian, you can probably, a lot of people like to think they're embroiled in some sort of controversy.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, oh, now I know what it's like to like, unless like the president's giving news conferences about it, it's not really a controversy.
It's
like,
headlines.
Yeah, like some people getting mad about something on social media, like that's not controversy. Like having like the UN have to make a statement about it, that's a controversy,
I have a question. I saw a video that Bryan Cranston saw you super high or whatever and came up to you, and that you're not a good friend of his. You do know him.
I do know him a little bit.
But he is still that man, and he's a celebrity. And as a person that's been too high in public, and I'm just hanging on in the corner, it wouldn't even matter. If it was just anybody, it would put me off the edge. But if it was a famous person that I don't know that well, walks over and goes, "Hey man, are you okay?"
Yeah.
I would be gone.
I would send him over the edge. I know him.
I literally left.
That did it.
That did it. I was at the Golden Globes and I had a weed lollipop that was way too high. This was like this was years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years. I can't remember exactly. And I mean, honestly, I have a vague recollection. And of all the drugs I've done in my life, nothing has made me more high than like weed food that is too strong.
Yep.
Like that is the only thing where I've truly been like, please, God, make this end.
Yep.
Like,
I've done
please. There's been moments of other drugs where you're like, this is a lot. This is, I'm white knuckling it a bit, but I'm gonna, this wave will crash, as they say. But with weed food, you're like, this wave will never crash.
Yeah.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Like, and this was one of those times where I was just like an innocent looking weed lollipop. I don't drink that much. I was like, oh, a weed lollipop at the Golden Globes. And then like the whole world came crashing down on me. I truly don't have a great recollection of what happened, other than I was at a party, which is at the same venue it's all in the same hotel, and that Bryan, I like the next thing I know, Bryan Cranston is like holding me, looking at me, saying, "Are you all right?" And at that point, I just remember turning to my wife and being like, "Let's get out of here right a second." And we like turned, and she was like, "All right," and we just like turned and left. And truthfully, I didn't remember if he had any recollection of it, or if I kind of like blew it out of proportion in my head, or maybe you kind of form these stories a little bit as you tell them, and they kind of take on a life of their own at times. And then I heard him tell the story, and it was almost worse than I remember it. Which I guess was validating in some ways, but
it was that impactful.
Yeah, it was that he remembered.
We had a funny email exchange because I heard you on Howard Stern with Snoop.
Oh yeah,
and he was like smoking Snoop's weed.
It's the same as Be Real. They've got weed. Like I smoke as much as him for sure, but those guys,
they have different weed.
They do it in a like it's just like they've got like 5 each.
Yeah,
and it's just like you give that guy one and then they give it back, and you're just like,
it's a different level of intake.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not used to that. And like,
Well, I just emailed you and said I just thought it was really funny. Like that was a great bit. You and Snoop was hilarious, and he said, "Yeah, I was not okay after that."
Yeah, I was okay on the show. And then afterwards, also Snoop is like fascinated with these cross joints I roll and he likes them. And there's like a novelty to them. So every time I'm with him, he's like, "Gotta roll a cross joint." So we were on the show, and then we go back to, he has like a little trailer that is like a quarter of the size of this room we're in right now.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "Roll some cross joints with this like 50% THC weed that I have." That is like, like not when I'm used to smoke. That's what he had. And I'm in the, I'll go to the 30s. I'll have a 4 every once in a while, but like his weed, I don't know, like it was wild. And so I roll like some gigantic cross joints, and we hotbox this like little tiny room. Meanwhile, he has blunts he's smoking. It's like, it's like he has a blunt to wash down the cross joint as we're smoking it, and he's passing that, he's passing this, and it's just like, what is happening right now? And then he gets in his car, he's driven off, and my car was like parked in an alley behind the studio, and I got in my car and sat in it for like an hour. It was just like, I can't do anything.
Didn't that happen
That's how I felt.
Didn't that happen to you when you did Be Real
I
show?
did Be Real's
He
podcast.
didn't even smoke.
I didn't even smoke.
They're in a little car, right?
But I did, not the one in the car. I wouldn't survive that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But I was just in the room, and my lungs were burning in the room. And then I got in my car, same thing, and I was supposed to go meet my family for dinner, and I just sat in my car like, I can't drive.
Do anything right now.
Yeah, I did that show, and I'm friends with Be Real. He's awesome, but
that's great.
One of the co-hosts,
when I was in high school, I used to sit in my room and listen to Cypress Hill and smoke
so
weed.
great.
I love it. One of the co-hosts had a dab bong, and everybody had a joint. Everybody had one. And he had a dab bong, and the room is like you got high and you didn't smoke. So you're getting that, and I'm smoking this, and I'm looking at this guy, and he's doing a dab, and he's got a joint in his hand while he's talking, asking me about skateboarding or something. I'm like, how are you doing that?
Yeah. There's been a few, and I'm sure you have someone like me, who smokes a lot of weed, there's probably like a dozen times in my life when you're in a room with people, you're like, I smoke a lot of weed. These people really smoke a lot of weed. It is insane. Yeah.
Like how much air do they breathe versus weed smoke?
I remember
what's the ratio?
Snoop Dogg recorded a song for This Is the End that's like during the end credits, and we went to the recording because we went to the recording studio while they recorded the song, and it was like that. It was like so constant and crazy, and like Craig Robinson was there, who's in the movie, and I literally at one point look over and he's like asleep on the couch, and I'm just like, oh, like this is like we have like a body count after this, like all from just smoking so much weed. It's like, it was truly insane. One time I went to the High Time Stoner of the Year Awards, where you would expect there to be a lot of weed, and Funkadelic was the band.
Oh, wow.
And they're, again, backstage in a green room around this size, there's like 45 in Funkadelic, you know, and every one of them is smoking weed. In this tiny room, there's like 50 joints being passed around at the same time. I had just gone to the dentist that day and had my teeth cleaned, and so my mouth and face was like numb. And I remember I had to get up, and it was one of those moments where I was like on stage speaking, accepting the award, having the thoughts of like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening right now. Like, how did I get up here? I feel insane. I can't feel my head. Like, it's like, what in the name of God is going on here? Like, it was truly sometimes you get real high.
What I love when you're talking about listening to Cypress Hill and working with Snoop, I feel like what they brought to music in the advocacy for weed, you brought to the movies at a time when there was very little. I mean,
yeah,
it was it was like a Cheech and Chong resurgence.
You're the new
so to
Cheech and
speak.
Chong.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is like Cypress Hill in a lot of ways, and Snoop and all those guys were kind of like, you know, the first. Like with music, if you have a recording studio, like all music can sound at the same production level. You know what I mean? And that was like weed-based music in a lot of ways that sounded as good as every other kind of music. And I think that was like what movies hadn't quite done. And like those Cheech and Chong movies they're funny, but they're not like real movies, you know? Like they don't have like the structure of a real movie. They don't have the budget of a real movie.
I remember
they're not studio movies. Like they don't have the campaign. They didn't hold at the time of their release, like a place in culture that other, like what you would call quote unquote, like real movies had. And that's what Pineapple Express really did, is like, it was the first weed movie to have like, you know, it was like a $30 million movie. They spent like $50 million marketing it. It opened to like $30 million or some shit. It made $100 million. Like, it was like the first weed thing that was a movie that was like a legitimate success.
Right.
And not like a cult success. And not something that like slowly became a success. It like in the grand scale of like movies was a good success, you know? And that was really like, that was exciting and very validating because we had written the movie, you know, 7 years before we made it. And we had just tried to sell it for years and years and years. And everyone was like, no one wants to see a weed action movie. Like, it's just as insane. And we would tell people about I literally remember like being out at parties and clubs and events. And, you know, I wasn't unemployed really, right? I was someone who had like been in some things. People would always ask me like, what are you working on? And we were like, oh, it's this great movie, Pineapple Express. It's a weed action movie. It's with two potheads getting hunted by their drug dealer. And I like still to this day remember like the looks on people's faces that were saying like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Do you think the times changed and it became accepted, or why?
We just became after like we had like after essentially like Knocked Up came out, and Judd had produced Anchorman and Talladega Nights. It's like we were kind of the safest bet in Hollywood in some ways. And essentially Amy Pascal, who ran Sony, was like, if you have a script written, I will make it.
Right.
Like, and in one 12-month period of time, we made Knocked Up, Superbad, and Pineapple Express. Like, all in one, literally in 12 months. Like, back to back to back. Like, we would stop shooting one, start shooting the other. As we were shooting one, we prepped the next one, stop shooting that, went right into the next one. And
was one of them released while you were still working on the other ones?
What's funny, no. 40-Year-Old Virgin had come out, which was a big success. But Knocked Up came out. Knocked Up and Superbad came out the same summer and were the two biggest like comedies of the year, like the same summer. Like, and one came out in July and the other came out in August, and they both made like $150 million, which is like crazy. Yeah,
that's so wild. I was just wondering if you're working on these movies and then one is getting released and it's like, oh, that one's gonna work. This is all working.
Yeah. Well, then Pineapple Express came out the fall. Like, even though it was done, we waited a whole year to release it because we like to come out in the summer, and that we were just like waiting on. And like everyone really loved Superbad and Knocked Up, and we were just like, wait till you see the next one. It's insane. Like if you thought those were crazy, like wait, like they gave us guns and explosions and shit like that for the next one. And yeah, we were like kids in a candy store. We were like, oh, it's like we get to do the same and blow things up this time. Like,
That
yeah,
does sound cool.
it was really fun.
Hey, do you know about fish poo weed?
What is it? Weed they fertilize with fish poo?
Yeah.
No, weirdly the answer's no.
Yeah.
But I pieced it together.
You stumped Seth.
Yeah, I got a weed friend, and he does
He fertilizes weed with fish poo
in tanks, and the water from the tanks
Oh,
puts on
that's
the
interesting.
weed, so you don't have to put as many pesticides on it or something.
That's really interesting.
That's as far as I go with the technology of fish poo weed.
You're like a botanist, yeah.
Yes. I just know a guy.
Can you come up with another name for it? Because that's
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure he's devastated right now for me calling it fish poo
Calling
weed.
it fish
Yeah.
poo
He
weed.
definitely has.
You're the FPW guy, right? Yeah. I heard about you on that podcast. Yeah.
He might like that. I don't
You
know.
might like that.
Yeah. It's kind of catchy.
Could be worse.
So I have a funny story about when Seth and I first met. Well, we first met at the Stand Up to Cancer event.
I met you in the funniest way imaginable in that, like, I was walking into the venue and the first time I saw you was in midair, flying off of a ramp and landing in front of me, essentially.
That was at the Stand Up to Cancer event, right?
Rehearsing.
Yeah.
You were like,
Because I had to
rehearsing
ollie
your-
3 stairs.
It was the most like.
Wait, and he was at the bottom of the stairs?
Yeah, because he was walking in.
Yeah.
Oh, he was going to go up the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
like,
and you-
it
okay.
It was so funny. It was like it was like meeting Mike Tyson as he was knocking someone unconscious. Like there was like no more quintessential way to meet somebody. Like
Wait, so you ollied the stairs and then pulled up
Well, I
in
was
front of
rehearsing.
him?
Yeah, all these stairs and then stopped immediately because I have to stop before the crowd.
At him.
He's there. And it was like sick. Like, sick.
I was just like, this is the greatest. What an event!
It's definitely Tony Hawk. Like, you would definitely, it's like, that's not an imposter.
But you got to know, like, I'm down to do Vert demos all day, live or whatever.
Yeah.
Ollieing like 3 or 4 stairs
It's
live on TV.
Between
That's
us.
a risky ass.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
That's a risk. Yeah.
Vert
But-
dudes find that difficult.
So we met there briefly, but then reconnected because your wife with Hilarity for Charity.
Yeah.
You guys knew that my mom was suffering from Alzheimer's. Lauren's mom was suffering from Alzheimer's. So we met for lunch to talk about how to collaborate through the charity. But do you remember when we left lunch?
Did someone recognize us or something like
yeah.
that?
We
were standing on. It was on Melrose,
Yes,
right?
it was on Melrose.
It's all like flooding back to me.
So
A tour bus drove by. Yeah.
So this is so funny.
Oh, wow.
Totally
we
forgot
left
that.
lunch, like a cool place that we met. My wife was there too. And we're walking down Melrose, and Melrose was oddly empty. Like there was no traffic at all.
Yeah.
And the only car that drove by was a TMZ tour bus.
Man,
We were stopped. We were stopped taking photos. Like we were taking a
It was like
selfie. Like,
one
oh,
other
let's take a
person.
photo.
Wait, you guys are taking a photo of each other?
Yeah, and then the bus stops, and they're like, and over here we have Seth Rogen and Tony Hawk.
Taking selfies
And
together.
they stop, and everyone gets off the bus. Like we're there for their tour, and immediately Seth's like, "We parked you over here. We're gonna go."
I've booked.
Yeah, he went behind the bus. As people are getting off the bus, he goes behind it and goes to his car, and he's out of sight.
Oh.
And then I'm kind of like, hi everyone,
Oh.
because we're parked right there. We can't escape.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. I have physically run from fans on many occasions.
Yeah. I'll never forget though, like what a strange
That was
scenario.
so funny. I totally forgot that until you just said that. This is a funny, and I think it's what like, you know, this is a funny Will Smith story. It has nothing to do with him beating the shit out of a comedian. But one time,
Because that's always a great story.
He has a couple other plays. That's not the only thing he did. But one time, I was talking to him. I had never met him, and I ran into him on the Sony lot. And we're talking, and to me, this is one of those stories where I'm like, oh, this is why Will Smith, you know, is a lot probably richer and more famous than I am. I was talking to him, and around the corner comes a tour, like one of these Sony tours that's like led by a guy, like, and it's like literally we're just talking there, staring at each other, and like 30 tourists come around a corner, basically. And the tour guide is like, holy shit, it's Will Smith and Seth Rogen. And we both look at each other with a look that's like, all right, you know what to do now. And I literally ran away as he went over to the group of tourists and took pictures with every single one of them. And I remember like running and looking back, being like, Will, we got him. Oh no, he's like, what is he doing?
He's under attack.
Yeah, they got him.
No man left behind.
Hit him. Yeah, but but no. And then I was like, he wants to do this. He's choosing to do this. He put himself in this situation. He went towards it, and yeah, it was. And I ran and never looked back. Yep. His defenses failed.
Oh man! I just imagine Will in the bus.
Yeah.
Hey! Like he's Jesus.
I saw an article the other day that was like, people should stop making jokes about Will Smith doing that. And I'm like, I don't think you ever stop. Like, I think that's forever.
I mean, that one you just did right then was really funny.
I think it's like Mel Gibson being anti-Semitic. You could make fun of him that forever.
Yeah.
You never stop making Mel Gibson jokes.
Yeah, I don't
in
think
my
it's ever going to
opinion.
get buried.
No, you never stop.
No,
And
you
people
should
are like,
not stop.
People are like, it's time to stop. The answer's no.
Yeah, no.
You keep doing it.
I know.
You make it never stop. you never let it stop. It's a similar thing. You can't stop. You have to keep doing it.
I wonder how many jokes there will be about that at the Oscars this
Exactly,
year.
literally. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
God, I got some good. Yeah, there's got to be some good ones. You come out with a helmet
Yeah.
on. Come on, there's a lot.
So great.
Man, I'm so glad I got really high before the show. It's like one of the funniest days of my life.
And then you invited us to Hilarity for Charity,
Yes.
and I offered you. I remember we had this email exchange, and I was like, "Oh, I have a ramp, and we could do it." And I really thought that you were like, "Oh God, like
No.
yeah, right." No. But then the next year, he's like, "Yeah, bring the ramp. Let's go." Made a space for us.
Yeah.
We did a
Had the
Vert
biggest
demo.
ramp ever. It was amazing.
He does that.
Did a Vert demo in the carnival. It
Yeah.
was so cool.
It
so
was so
fun.
awesome.
Everyone that skated did it pro bono, and
Yeah.
they were so excited to be
Oh,
there.
that was awesome! Everyone was so thrilled. It was like they couldn't believe it. That was a great event.
Oh, thank you. That was super
That was
fun. That
so
was
fucking cool.
right
Really-
before COVID.
It was literally
Yeah.
that might have started COVID. we
It
served
was a
bad
super
at that.
spreader.
We shouldn't have served bad at
It
that
was a
event.
super spreader.
Everyone like, should we be serving this bat? I was like, I don't know. Seems good.
And then I went to the
It's
the
raw.
last one.
It's raw, and that pig's been coughing on it. It's okay. All the bad hors
It was
d'oeuvres.
just all of them,
Yeah.
every single scenario.
Yeah. I said serve it anyway. You know what? What's the worst that could happen?
Hey, it's all for charity.
It's for charity. Yeah,
Oh,
they don't care. Get it out there.
And then I went to the last one, and you were the carnival barker.
I was, yes.
What's a carnival
I've done that
barker?
a few times. It's
Like
a
he
guy
was-
who announces the carnival games.
Oh, of
yeah.
course.
Yeah, like talking shit.
Oh yeah, mad shit.
Yeah.
It's fun to do that. It's a good thing to ask.
It's one of those
comedians
games
to
where you
do.
got to shoot. Well, I was like, blow up the balloon, you know?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
And then he's the guy like, all right, number one, you got your aim set.
That was a fun thing we did at that event that you guys did the first time. We had a carnival and we had comedians like manning all the games. So like Jeff Ross was the bumper car announcer, which was hilarious because he was just mocking the shit out of everybody on the bumper cars the whole time. It was a whole Nick Kroll was running one of the games.
Holy
Ike was
shit.
running one of the games. We had Anderson .Paak actually played that event. That was really great. That was a fun way to do it because it was an easy thing to ask comedians to do, which was like, do you want to operate a carnival game for an hour? Because that's fun for everybody.
It does sound fun.
Yeah, it does sound fun. You get one of those little microphone things. Yeah, it's great.
I had the microphone thing. We used to do a tour together where I was the announcer and I wanted to still skate. And Tony was like, skate. Be in the actual, let's do a routine while you've got the microphone on. So
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I had the little Madonna microphone on and under my helmet. And it's a demo, a Tony Hawk demo. It's kids and
Yeah.
family people. And every now and then when I'm in the air and things
like,
aren't
"Oh,
going
fuck."
that well, I say to myself verbally, "Oh fuck."
Oh yeah.
So when you're in the air and you're going over Tony Hawk and you don't want to hit Tony Hawk and you don't land that good and you know that the air you're going to do, you're going to have to really try to get over him. And you're in the air and you want to say, McGillicuddies.
You don't want to self-censor midair.
Yeah. There was one demo where I went off the side of the ramp and I hit the wall and the ramp was like 5 feet above the ground. So I bounced off the wall, like off the net onto the ground. And I had this mic on me.
Oh, God.
And it was like, whack, and then whack. And I went, wow. Keep it going, everybody. And I remember going up the stairs, like, and it was like the one side was not like stairs with a handrail. It was just like the stairs with your hands. So I'm like climbing up the side of the ramp, and I can see you're still skating. I'm like, keep it going, everybody. You gotta keep it going for Tony Hawk. I'm like, get up on the deck, and people were like, other people were like, you're okay.
Are you
I'm like,
fucking okay?
yeah, we're gonna keep it going. Like,
We had one of those in the arena tour when it was, there was like 10,000 people
Yeah.
watching, and Rick Thorne was our announcer, and he would ride during the jam
Okay.
because he really wanted to get on the ramp
Yeah.
and show what he got. He gets KO'd
Oh no.
during the jam, and then
With the microphone on?
there's no announcer. We
there's
have no
just
announcer.
Oh no.
So who announced?
We would just take turns. Everyone's grabbing the mic. The mic was on the deck. And then Kevin Robinson gets up. He's like, all right, guys, yeah, here we go. And then, I'm going to drop in now. Mic down.
I'm gonna drop in now.
And then,
Cheer for me, everybody.
Everyone give it up for me.
And
Keep it
then
going
Ronnie
for me.
Feist, motocross guy, finally just came up to the ramp because it was not during a motocross segment. He's like,
Okay.
all right, yeah, guys. He doesn't know any skate tricks. He doesn't know anything, but he, at
Wow,
least
that
he
was
could make-
radical, you guys.
Yeah.
You got it. Whoa,
At least he
sit
could
down.
make noise.
How do they keep the board on their feet?
It was chaos. It was like at one point there was this one show that was like mired in chaos. I can't even. Someone threw fireworks on the ramp
What?
during the same show.
Like a fan?
I get a fan, I guess, or a
That's not cool.
saboteur.
Yeah.
And then Bob shot his board out and it hit Bucky in the head. He got KO'd.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
a board shot out and knocked out
Knocked
Bucky.
out Bucky. It was all in the same show. It was in Vancouver. It was. I blame you partly for that.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever a
cursed.
board shot out and hit someone in the head.
Yeah,
and
the
knocked them
band
out.
like was breaking strings on their guitars. Like the whole thing was just
Was
cursed.
it Warp Tour or was it?
No,
like
that was our
it
Boom
just
Boom
your
Huck Jam
band?
tour.
That's
Like
amazing.
it was an arena tour. It was
That's
just
amazing.
chaos. It was crazy.
Man,
Yeah. So anyway,
I would like to watch that live. That sounds
That sounds
exciting.
great. I'm gonna Google that when I
Yeah,
go.
right?
It was like
Everybody,
I remember at the end of the show, it was just like, is it over?
Yeah,
Can we
go home now?
leave? This is like, we're gonna get in a car crash on the way home.
What about Bucky just waking up and going, "Hey, man, was I in
No,
a demo?"
I remember
What
him.
happened?
It was during the halftime because the jam is when all the gnarly skating goes on because everyone's unleashed, right? You don't have to do a routine.
Okay.
You can just try your hardest stuff. You can fall, whatever, and that's when we get some of our best riding. But Bucky was like looking over at Bob, didn't realize Bob had lost his board. So right as he looked over the deck, the board came up, hit him in the head.
Oh my
And so we're backstage in our sort of break of the event, and Bucky's like, I think I'm knocked out.
Yeah.
He's looking
Right
at us
now?
like, I'm pretty sure I have a concussion. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember where we are.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
That'll do it.
you gotta stay up. We're not.
I love when we know that we've been
Yeah.
knocked out.
Yeah, it's
like,
I think I'm knocked out
Yeah.
is a good
Not a great thing to hear
not a
mid-show.
good thing to hear.
No.
I think I'm currently knocked out.
it's a good thing to know when you've been knocked
Yeah.
out so that you can at least tell yourself to not continue to do the demo.
Yeah. At least he had the. Well,
It's very important because I've woken up before and I'm like, I'm good. And people are going, you're not good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like I can
You're in
trust
another
you.
city.
Yeah.
Have you had any incidents on set where anyone got hurt or where it was just?
Yeah, little things here and there for sure. Well, Pineapple Express, when we made that, we all hurt each other a lot. There's a lot of fighting things in that. There's a scene where I or who does? I think James maybe hits Danny McBride in the back of the head with a glass bong, like where you have this big crazy, and it's like a big bong. And I remember in the script, it was like we wrote that like he like swings it around like a broadsword and like cracks his head with it, and it's breakaway glass, which is it is meant to break away, but I guess someone put water in the bong to make it look right, not considering that adds like significant weight to it, like several pounds of weight. And I remember he got hit in the back of the head, and it's in the movie, and he makes like, there's like a look on his face where like in the middle of the scene, you're like, uh-oh. But then in those same moments, you're just like, don't stop. Like if there was ever, like if he seems okay, you kind of have to keep going, because then otherwise we've wasted this. Right. Like this is the thing that is good.
Even better, unfortunately.
Exactly. And I remember I think he maybe got like stitches in the back of his head, and like he was a little fucked up. There were a few things like that happened here and there, but
I love how committed you guys are, though. Like, it's going. We're going.
With physical comedy like that, you gotta like, it's tough, and like you want to have the stunt people do as much as possible. And stunt people, I mean, that's a tough gig, but we do it sometimes.
I did that on Paul Blart when I was in a fight scene, and it was probably the coolest thing I've ever done.
You got hit with glass?
No, unfortunately,
Did you get punched out?
I got hit with Kevin James.
Oh yeah.
But he's into MMA, so he and I had like a little bit of a, like I'll block, I'll duck kind of thing happening, and then he had to beat me up and put me in a tanning bed, and then slam the tanning bed, the tanning bed on me, and they put these little foam bumpers.
They never
because
worked.
my arm was hanging out.
Oh no.
And the bumpers moved. As soon as he hit me one time, the bumpers flicked off, and then he just started smashing my arm.
That's like a classic movie. Like I've seen 100,000 things like that happen, where you're just like, we've taken every safety precaution, and then it's like action. All the safety precautions crumble instantaneously, and you're just like, oh, I'm just like hitting a guy with a thing now. I broke a stunt guy's nose once by accident.
Oh,
like
wow.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate and disgusting.
With a
punch.
Your hand hit him.
Oh, I just punched him in the nose, and like you could hear it on set. Like it was like it just like literally like I made like direct contact with his nose, and he went down and got up, and his nose was like over there, and everyone was he's like, it was one of those like, is it bad? And everyone was like, Jesus fucking God, like get this man to a hospital. And he was like, I'm fine, I go again. Everyone's like, no.
Like Will Ferrell, like, what, is it bad?
Yeah, it was exactly that. Everyone's like, it's bad. It's very bad.
Were you supposed to just miss him? That was the...
Yeah, and I will take, I'd say, like, half the blame. He kept, and it's a thing stunt people want to do sometimes, is like, they're like, I'll help sell it and get in there. And I'm like, I'm pretty good with my swings. Like, don't. Like, I'll make it close. Don't, you stay there. And he's like, no, I can close the gap a little bit. And then, like, the gap was closed just a little tiny bit too much.
I did a very small thing on Eric Andre's show, and it was supposed to be me helping him destroy the set in the intro, and then at some point I just start beating him up, and I remember I had never done that kind of thing, like faking a fight on set, and so I'm taking these swings and I'm purposely missing him, and they stop, and the director's like, yeah, you gotta
hit him.
No, it was more like, you're about to hit him.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, you gotta stop leaning into that, and Eric was he's doing whatever, but he's like, you're about to hit him. Like,
that would have been bad.
I don't know if my punch would have been that devastating to him, but
would have been pretty funny.
If there's anyone that's okay, Eric Andre would roll with it.
I know, right?
It was funny though, because when I'm doing it, he's like, I thought we were friends.
That shows chaos.
You did it right.
I have been on that show, yeah.
What were you doing on it?
It didn't seem like a funny experience.
No, I love Eric, and we're actually friends, and so and I think it's genius. But yeah, it was, they go for it pretty hard on that. That's like that's not beginner level comedy.
When he's making the people rap and
I love how he scares rappers. That's why he scares the shit out of rappers.
Course.
Yeah, it's really
keep
funny.
rapping.
He had a zombie come out one time. Yeah, that shit's really funny.
Man,
He
we need a
published my
zombie.
phone number. That was what he
Did he really?
Yeah, I put my phone number on his screen. It's okay. It's cool.
Wait, so but does that mean they recorded the
I knew,
episode?
I knew there was a face there where it wasn't the greatest time of your life. I saw that
But
face.
I have questions
Now I
now.
know what the face was for.
He recorded the episode, and then when the episode aired, it had your phone number on it? Is that how it works?
In the episode, he's like, "We're showing your phone number," and I was like, "Don't do that." And then it actually. And then
Oh my God.
That's so
I
great.
got a lot of good messages. We still have that. We still send each other messages that number gets.
I love that you kept it.
You got to keep it going.
Every time there's a rerun, he just gets blasted.
Exactly. It's just a surging call.
So great. So what's next, Seth?
What's next? Man, quite a bit. I produced a lot of these things. The Boys. I produced the show The Boys,
Yep.
so they're shooting more of the new.
I feel like The Boys has such a meme generator.
Yes, a lot.
A
Anthony
lot of
Starr
memes
has a
coming
lot
out
of
of that.
memes. He's
Yeah.
like a very memeable character. The
Right.
Homelander is a very memeable character. So yeah, there's another season of The Boys. There's a show, like a spin-off show called Gen V that's like in the Boys universe about
Oh,
a college.
shit.
It's about a college that's owned by Vought, like the big company in The Boys, and it's kind of like Euphoria with kids with superpowers.
Yeah.
It is truly insane.
Oh, yes.
And
Man, that is so cool.
yeah, and we're doing a Ninja Turtles movie that's amazing, like an
sick.
animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
they
movie.
skate?
They do skate, actually.
Yes.
And what's funny is we were having a call with the music supervisor because we were pretty far along on it, and there's a lot of music in it, and they were like, "How would you describe like?" They were like, the music doesn't go together. It goes together, but in a weird way. Like, how would you describe it? And our director was like, I kind of describe it as what you would kind of hear playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. In that, like, it's like a random assortment of music, kind of, but it all fits together perfectly. It kind of has the same like energy and spirit, but it's like very similar. And there are literally some songs that are from like the original Tony Hawk's
That's
Pro Skater
amazing.
in the movie. Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh, I'm hyped for that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool. It's fully animated and it comes out in August, and it's incredible. I'm really psyched about it. Yeah,
Wow. Well, Seth, thanks so much for
no
making
problem.
the time for us.
This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
That was enjoyable.
That was the most fun I've had in a long time. I can't remember. Thanks to hitting my head so much. That is the most fun I've ever had.
And thanks for all the entertainment.
Thank
Yeah.
you. No, thank you for everything, man.
like-
Yeah.
Not, I know it's cliche, but big fan of your work.
Oh, you too, man.
All across the board. And thanks for all you and your wife do for Alzheimer's.
Thank you,
for
man, for
awareness
everything you've done to help
charity.
us. Yeah, you've helped our charity so much, and you've given so much of your time.
I'm giving a skate lesson
Good.
in a couple weeks.
That's great.
That we auction off.
Yes,
at his event.
I'll come by.
Oh, please do.
I would love to.
Hey, can I get a lesson?
I told him as long as I'm able to, because I'm still recovering from this injury,
Yeah.
but I'm on my way, and so as long as I'm able to stand comfortably on the skateboard, I can give a lesson.
That's
So
great.
That's where we're at now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
well, thank you so much.
Thanks, man. That was fun.
That was dope.
There you go, everybody. Seth Rogen, legend.
Like and describe.
Like and subscribe.